Yay, this is exciting. We have gotten to the point where we can discuss the intervention ziggurat. This is a framework for change. Let's begin. Why is assessment essential to individual programs? Why must we capitalize on strengths and address challenges? Only through assessment can we know what the strengths and challenges are for a student. What is a ziggurat? Well, it's a pyramid-like structure. The ziggurat model represents a framework for thorough intervention. The intervention ziggurat facilitates the development of targeted, comprehensive, positive interventions. There are 5 critical levels that will be addressed within the ziggurat model: sensory differences and biological needs, reinforcement, structure with visual and tactile supports, task demands, and skills to teach. Here we have an image of a ziggurat with the 5 levels that are critical to the intervention within. It gives a little bit more detail regarding what indicators would fall within each level. Let's go ahead and speak to each. We'll start with the bottom. The first and foremost level of the ziggurat that must be addressed. ASD is a highly heritable disorder. It's primarily identified through twin studies and some gene mapping that there is a genetic component. The bioneurological impairments lead to a priority in understanding and intervening at this first level. Anxiety and attention deficits are a manifestation. Focus can be modifying the environment to ensure health and comfort. At this level, we need to consider the sensory preoccupation, motor challenges, sleep disturbances, and anxiety of our students with autism spectrum disorder. Motor and sensory function is noted to be a challenge for individuals with ASD. Atypical sensory functioning is present as early as 9 months of age. Sensory preoccupations consistently show symptoms of ASD. They're present in as many as 90% of the population. Sleep disturbances seem to be pervasive across individuals with ASD as well, and these exacerbate the characteristic perseveration. This is particularly noted for those at ASD level 1. Sleep difficulties include atypical bedtime routines, behavior difficulties at bedtime, walking during the night, waking early in the morning, and difficulty going to sleep. This can cause a major problem for families because they feel like there is a safety concern, as well as these sleep disturbances bleed into the school day with students, sometimes seemingly unable to stay awake in class, or at the very least, feeling lethargic. Research findings indicate genetic differences and structural abnormalities of the brain are confirming the pervasive and fundamental role of biology in ASD. The sleep disturbances, language deficits, anxiety, attention deficit, and sensory and motor difficulties seen often in individuals on the autism spectrum likely result from these underlying factors. Now to the next level. Let's consider reinforcement. Now I'm going to describe this to you, but you've already had some background in reinforcement and behavior in the previous course of this 3-course series. We define reinforcement as a situation or event that follows a particular behavior, resulting in increased likelihood that a behavior will reoccur in the future. We all make choices based off the payoff. Why do you answer the door only when the doorbell rings or there is a knock, and not when you hear nothing? Well, because no one will be there and there is no payoff. Why do you go to school? You know that a degree or an endorsement will improve your chances of getting a job or making more money or being able to fulfill your job duties. Why do you scratch your arm where you have a bug bite and not where you don't? Because it feels good to relieve an itch, but it hurts to scratch comfortable skin. Payoff. We want students to develop habilitative skills, or skills that will be useful to them in the future. For example, responding to social overtures is a useful skill to get both attention and avoid making enemies. You must figure out what are effective motivators or incentives for those students with ASD so that you can effectively reinforce desired skills or newly taught skills. Why isn't punishment a level in the intervention Ziggurat? What's your opinion of that? I'll post a discussion later. What are the core characteristics of ASD? Well, social communication and restricted interests and patterns of behavior. Intervention at this third level support those. Children with ASD typically rely heavily on visual processing. You'll see that the meat of your interventions with children with ASD involve visual primers to help anticipation and order, and visual prompts to prepare and support student behavior and learning. Students with poor communication skills thrive with visual for communication. So, look out Google Images. At the next level here, task demands, I have a number of questions that are typical questions we ask to determine if we're expecting more, enough, or too much for our students. So is it appropriate to expect John to be able to sit in a classroom for 45 minutes? What are the social demands for Maria at work? Can Marty copy information from the board? Does Miguel have the skills to handle a field trip to the art museum? We ask our students to engage in these behaviors all the time, and then we wonder why they can't behave correctly or complete the tasks. We always have to remember, are we scaffolding? Are we breaking it down? Are we giving it to them at the point where they're ready to learn and they're able to do it? I think of an example of myself. If I go to the gym and I have a trainer and he asks me to do 100 pull-ups for my exercise for the day. I mean, he can ask me and urge me all day long, but if I can't do pull-ups, then that exercise routine is going to be useless for me, and I'm probably going to get upset. All right, so here we have figure 3.2. These are 3 levels of difficulty in application. It helps to demonstrate what is the zone of proximal development. I want you to read on the zone of proximal development by Vygotsky, because zone of proximal development, or ZPD, is the optimal place for new learning. Within the process, you will need to list the demands of the student and determine if they are able to do them with the current given support or no support. Is it easy, challenging, or an emerging skill, or is it too demanding? This is what we need to determine. So it's important that you have developed an understanding of what is the zone of proximal development. The zone of proximal development defines those functions that have not yet matured but are in the process of maturation. Functions that will mature tomorrow but are currently in the embryonic state. The functions could be termed the buds or the flowers of development rather than the fruits of development. We need equilibrium to teach and reach students at the ZPD, meeting them right at the place between able to do and not able to do, and support them there. Please note that individuals with ASD have splinter skills, and often that means that they can articulate something or how to do something, but they cannot organize the central coherence to pull to understanding into practice. They need to show you that they can perform the skill before you believe that they can. Students with ASD have uneven skill development, so don't let areas of great strength trick you into believing they can do all things at that developmental level. This is why so many students with ASD are characterized as lazy and stubborn by those who are uninformed. Under this section of the textbook, you read about Nathan and his challenges at work. To get you to begin thinking about these ideas, later in this module, you will be asked to design a visual cue card for Nathan to keep at the register for using visual cues. You're just going to design the card, draft it, sketch it, put it in a Word document, however you prefer, and upload it into a discussion for others to review. It will be important to teach skills that will lead to independence in specific environments. An environmental inventory is an excellent way to assess the student's specific areas to teach. I'm going to stop the video now, this presentation, so that you can look at a short presentation on ecological inventory to help you see how you might identify skills to teach.